Okay, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Make sure that rub the eyebrows vigorously, and voila, 20 years younger. Wow. I am younger. I can't drive anymore. I can't drink. I have a weird aversion to my parents telling me what to do, and I suddenly dread math class. Okay, that ain't it. That's not the type of exercise I'm talking about. We're talking about real exercise with scientifically shown benefits, wherein researchers randomly assigned middle-aged, around age 40 to 60, people to perform an endurance training routine or a resistance training routine over 4 months, and then assessed what happened to their skin. In fact, they assessed other aspects of their health and performance, but I assume you already know that exercise is good for your health, so we'll skip that data. Here, we're looking at skin elasticity. The higher the bar, the better. The AT and RT are aerobic or endurance training and resistance training. The white bars are before exercise and the darker stippled bars are for the after. As we can see and confirm statistically due to the asterisks, both exercises improved skin elasticity. So we know that exercise as a whole improves skin elasticity, but the promise of the video is the best, not that exercise generally improves skin, as interesting a revelation as that might be. So the researchers compared dermal thickness, that's the thickness of a large section of the skin that sits below the surface that you see day to day, called the epidermis. If the dermis is thicker, the skin is usually more youthful and full. Looking at that data, we can see that dermal thickness relative to aerobic exercise is improved with resistance training. So this suggests that resistance training has an outsized benefit, at least based off the metrics of this study on, skin health and youth. However, I should mention that when strictly looking at the before and after, so within the resistance training group only, not compared against aerobic, there was no effect. That still doesn't mean that resistance training didn't have an effect, just that depending on which comparison that you focus on, you could argue different interpretations. I think that the aerobic versus resistance training data that we just went over makes more sense though. Okay, but why? Like, we know endurance is excellent for blood flow and also great for our health, so isn't it a bit surprising that lifting weights or body weight resistance exercise or anything of that style would lead to better skin over endurance training? I mean, not to say that resistance training is a slouch, but for skin? Well, the researchers looked into that too by quantifying the various genes related to proteins in skin. As you can see in the Venn diagram, in blue are the aerobic exercise expressed genes, and in red are the resistance training exclusive genes. And the middle is the shared. Clearly, both exercise types have unique skin gene expressions, but the researchers focused their attention on this one, BGN. This is the gene for biglycan. Biglycan, other than sounding like something out of Dune, is an anchoring protein for collagen fibers. Collagen fibers aren't just spit out of the skin cells called fibroblasts. They need to be organized and anchored to give the dermis, that's the section of skin that we're interested in, structure. So if we look at the data, we're looking at biglycan gene expression. As we can see, there's no change in the aerobic condition, but there is an increase in resistance training. But is this consequential? Well, before we discuss that, allow me to mention that if you like this kind of deep analysis of studies, I have a research review where I release weekly videos, articles, and a monthly podcast with a focus on applicable information. There's a bunch of perks that I won't bore you with. Just check out the link in the description. It's called the Physionic Insiders. It's the one down there. Right. Just tap the description box. Yeah, it's the link at the top. Okay, you're not going to do it. Okay, cool. Well, screw me then. Okay. So, is this really consequential? Well, possibly, but keep a few things in mind. One, we're measuring gene expression, and as I've been reminded over and over during my PhD, gene expression doesn't always mean more protein is produced. Now, since we actually saw improvements in skin thickness, it seems likely that there's an effect here, although the increase in expression is a small 10%, not exactly earth-shattering. Still, there's another reason to care. Apparently, there's an inflammation marker that correlates with Biglycan. As Biglycan levels are higher, CCL28, this inflammatory molecule, is lower. We see that here. The Biglycan gene expression is on the vertical axis and the CCL28 levels are on the horizontal. The line is called a line of best fit, and this is an easy reference based on the data points rather than scrambling our brain trying to see a pattern. As Biglycan expression is greater, this relates moderately with lower CCL28 levels. In fact, the researchers also indicate that resistance training reduces CCL28 blood levels, so the actual protein. The researchers point out that they've done cell experiments where they actually apply CCL28 to cells and they observe a reduction in Biglycan expression, directly implicating CCL28 inflammation as a regulator and suppressor of Biglycan, a key protein in skin health. So, let's put all this together. Straight up, I do think some of the data in this study is weak for more reasons than just the one or two that I mentioned here. I'm not saying that it was poorly done, just that I'd want to see more evidence and stronger evidence to really believe everything here. However, we know one thing, and we are somewhat sure about another, coming back to the title of this video, considering some people are probably shell-shocked by the amount of data shown instead of a health influencer making up a bunch of BS. Anyway, back to the title. Number 1, exercise, plain old move your muscles exercise, will improve skin. That we know. 2, the type of exercise that is superior is still a bit up in the air, but leans in the direction of resistance training. The participants of the study exercise twice a week, by the way. I wouldn't worry about the specifics of the routine. It likely doesn't matter much. Just stick to any basic, well-established routine. I actually have a free one available in my Physionic community, also in the description box, under the link for the insiders that you ignored earlier. So, resistance train like your skin depends on it. Buffalo Bill will be very pleased.